Hi, it's Randy Herman with Keller Williams Realty, bringing you everything real estate, a show that interviews real estate experts and answers all your real estate questions. Today, I'm here with Blair Toland of Tall Guy Woodworking. And Blair is a contractor, going to tell us all about the world of contracting. Thank you so much for showing up here and
No
talking
problem.
with us.
Thank you for having me, Randy.
Yeah, well, and I hear you're just off of your honeymoon.
I am. Yeah, spent a lovely couple weeks away with my wonderful wife, Becky. It's a little warmer, a little...
Where were you?
We were in Bali, in Indonesia.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Now you're
But,
making thousands of people jealous here.
I'd highly recommend it. The place is lovely, lovely people. And but now we're back in town,
Back in the saddle, you're
time
back
to
to
get
work.
back into work. Yep, got some new projects going on right now.
Okay.
And
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and
Yep.
your company and what you do?
so my company is Tall Guy Woodworking, and I've been doing this for about 12 years now. And we're basically a residential remodeling company. We do general contracting. We do anything from small jobs, whether they're woodworking, someone needs a handrail installed, or someone has a small repair that they need.
Oh, you'll do a job that small.
We'll do small jobs, and then we've done everything to probably one of the largest projects we worked on was about I think it was the winter of 13 to 2015. Worked on a 13-unit, 7-story townhouse building or a brownstone building in Back Bay that suffered substantial water damage. They had a roof deck fire that smoldered a little bit, and no damage to the building, no injuries or anything like that, but substantial water damage. So we ended up working on, I think about 7 of the 13 condos were totally gutted. We ended up working on about 4 of those, plus the whole common area.
Wow.
So that was a
Big
2-year project. Yep, multiple. I think we had about 7 contracts in that building itself, working for 5 or 6 different customers, plus the condo board.
So who works with you? I see in your photo you have you're and
Yep.
2 other guys. Is it just a 3-man crew?
Right now, it's just a 3-man crew. Yep, the guys I've got working with me. That's John in the middle, and that's he's actually got sort of a similar background that I do. He started working in restaurants, and now he's come on over to me to work and to become a carpentry apprentice.
Right.
And then the guy on the left-hand side is David. David's a West Coast transplant. He came from Portland, Oregon, and he's done a lot of work with Habitat for Humanity. He's built houses on the West Coast, done all sorts of stuff like that, and he's sort of my lead carpenter. It's kind of a funny picture because the name of the company is Tall Guy Woodworking.
Right. How tall are you?
I'm 6'9".
Oh, well, that qualifies.
Yep. John's actually, he's about 5'6", and he's standing on a step ladder in this photograph. So, but we took that for the website, and I liked how the picture came out, so we put it up. So.
Well, the name is apropos then.
It is, yeah. And
Right. So what is your background in terms of carpentry?
I don't really have any professional formal training. I sort of faked it till I made it. I started out doing very small projects, handyman style projects, and then, tried to learn from people around me, tried to learn from, watching things like This Old House and Norm Abrams and those guys.
It's definitely a hands-on business.
It is. And, you can take the job if you look at it and say, well, I'm comfortable building a deck that's 10 foot by 10 foot. That's fine as an early project. It's, you want to make sure you build it to code, build it safely. Right. But, that's different than starting off and saying, I want to frame a 3-story building with, multiple staircases and something like that. So you can.
But you guys are licensed and insured.
Yep. We're I've got my construction supervisor's license and full insurance, full bonding, all that sort of stuff. I just sort of took an interest to it, and again, the projects have sort of grown over the years.
And what kind of projects do you do?
Our main bread and butter is residential remodeling. So that's kitchens, bathrooms, We've done whole apartment remodels, like I said, larger jobs, large scale, whole buildings.
Well, definitely from a realtor's point of view, the things that stand out are the kitchens and the bathrooms.
Sure, sure. Those tend to be, the real glitz and glamour parts of the home. It's great. It's where people spend a lot of their time, and really, taking an older house and improving the functionality of the kitchens and bathrooms can really just improve people's, how they live in that home. So, especially the kitchens, I find, tend to be the biggest.
Well, from a realtor's point of view, there's so little inventory now in the greater Boston area, mainly because people don't want to move. I mean, why should they want to move? It's such a great area. But do you find that there's an awful lot of homeowners who want to stay where they are and just remodel, or make it so there's an additional apartment for the in-laws?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's, if people like where they are, but the home doesn't totally fill their needs, it's often, more financially beneficial to work with what you have. It's like the devil you know.
But you also do commercial as well, right?
We've done some commercial. It's really not our main cash flow, but we've done a couple of restaurant and cafe projects. We built a cafe over in Cambridge. I think we finished that up last
I think we have
winter.
some pictures of it. Yeah.
Yep,
coming up.
Noka Cafe, run by a
I
good
know
friend of mine.
Noka, sure.
Yep. It's a great spot over on
Yeah.
Ringe Ave.
Yeah.
It's to take that place, it was a pretty rundown hair salon with a bad carpeted floor, which carpeting in a hair salon sounds like a bad idea from the get-go.
Right.
But uneven, terrible drop ceilings and mismatched wall paneling. And then to, go in with an architect, go in with the owner, see the plan, see the vision, and then really just turn it into something that's, it's sharp. People like spending time there.
Yeah.
It feels comfortable. It's relaxing. It's nice to know that,
Right. But you work with architects, and you just mentioned architect.
Fairly often. Some jobs we'll work with directly with the homeowner.
Right.
The homeowner come up to us and say, "This is our kitchen. We've got a cabinet plan, or can you help us put together a cabinet plan? This is what we want to do. Want to take out this wall, do that." Sometimes smaller jobs you can get away without an architect.
Right.
You don't need them. Unless you're doing major floor plan changes or egress changes and stuff like that, then a building inspector is going to say, "Hey, you're changing the function of this building," and
So it's partly the town that's requiring it.
Yeah, it is. It is sometimes. Especially if we're in a condo building or something like that, you just can't go flipping the walls around without someone who's licensed coming in and saying these walkways are wide enough, these stairs are built to the right spec.
You know what I find so interesting is that people often come to realtors and ask, well, I can't decide, should I sell my house or should I put on an addition? And will I get my money out of it?
Sure.
So there are stats here that are, show the replacement value, where you get your money out of it when you sell. And of course it depends upon the house and how much money. I mean, you could spend $30,000 on a toilet, much less on a bathroom.
You should, or you could rather. I don't know if you should. You could if you wanted to. Yeah, sky's the limit. But yeah, you need to figure out where's your value.
Yeah. So do you keep that in mind when you're actually doing the renovations?
Yeah, I mean, often customers will ask us. They say,
I mean, who comes up with the budget? I guess that's the main question.
That's a collaboration. A customer can say, "Hey, I want a top of the line kitchen. I want 200 linear feet of cabinets here. These are the materials. These are the specifications I want. I want top of the line cabinets, and I only want to pay X amount of dollars." You say, "Well,"
it's like people who come and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I want a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house for $200,000."
Sure.
And you go, "Okay,
we
maybe
all
in
want that.
Iowa, but
Yeah.
not around here."
Yeah, we all want that. So, one of the things that we offer, sort of my approach to coming up with an estimate and a price point is not saying, well, I have $70,000 to spend on an addition, or I have $40,000 to spend on a kitchen. What can we do? I'll take a look at the customer's parameters and say, well, this is what you want to do, and then we try and build it from the ground up. So often, you can come in, and if the customer's realistic, you could end up at the same exact price point. You say, oh, great, you want a very nice new kitchen for $40,000. I've built this from the ground up, starting with your permits, your demolition, your framing. What are the cabinets going to cost? What are your appliances going to cost? What about your sub-trades, your plumbers, electricians? And when all those things come in and they add up, and you say, hey, great, we actually came in below budget, so maybe you can afford that fancy cooktop that you want, or maybe you can afford that larger refrigerator, or maybe you can sock that money away to let's do the deck next spring or something like that.
Well, we were talking before, and I was asking you, how do you possibly come up with an estimate that you have to live with and actually finish the job, under?
Yep.
How do you do that?
A lot of it comes from experience. Right. You want to take a look at, there are contractors out there who will just throw out a square foot estimate, and that's sort of a cover-all for maybe you're going to come in a little high on this part, maybe come in a little low on that part. I don't really like to do it that way. I tend to look more on, break each job down by the task. If you look at a kitchen, you say this kitchen is, 15 feet by 20 feet. We want to demo it. All right. Well, my crew is 3 guys, plus maybe we'll grab a laborer or 2. I think we can do this in 5 days. Based on just the scope of it, based on our past experience, based on how fast one person can work.
So a lot
in 8
of it
hours.
has to do with experience.
Yeah. But then once you've sort of set that benchmark, you look back at the previous kitchen, you say, well, that kitchen was about the same size, about the same location, So I think that this is a realistic budget.
Right. Well,
you try and stick to them too. That's a big thing. The last thing a customer wants to hear is that you come back and you say, listen, nothing changed in the scope, but we're going to have to go up 20%. We rarely try to avoid that, or we rarely try to have that happen, rather.
Yeah, I understand. Do you have contracts signed beforehand with everything delineated as to what goes on?
Yeah, we like to do, I like to break the proposals down sort of chronologically, and it's on a spreadsheet. So it'll start at the top of the spreadsheet with, your planning and permits, your architects, your demolition, your framing, your rough installations, and then as it moves down, you go to, what are the trims? What do you need for millwork? What do you need for doors, windows, cabinets, countertops, roofing? So you sort of itemize everything out.
I understand.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask you, in this picture here, it looks like you have blown insulation in there.
We did.
Yeah, what was that about?
This customer, so this was a great project we just did up in Wakefield. We took basically a 12 by 14 bedroom that had about 7-foot ceilings, small windows, and we put a dormer on so you can see that we've made this room basically almost 1.5 or 2 stories.
Yep.
Put those large windows in there and the high ceilings, and we ended up having custom cherry bookcases that go on 3 of the walls.
Oh, nice.
And actually have a rolling library ladder. There's a gas fireplace in there. Customers got some real nice furniture in there.
So why do you blow in the insulation instead of putting up the fiberglass? Or
this just allowed us to work in an older home because this only has 2 by 4 inch thick walls.
Oh, I see.
You can get the R value. I think those R value on that wall is R23 or something like that.
Wow.
Versus
you probably have to be that thick for R23.
Yeah, fiberglass would be maybe R19 or R15 in a 2 by 4 wall. The nice thing about this too is it also seals the air, so you stop that air movement. That's one thing that fiberglass really isn't good at.
Didn't they, long ago though, use air as the insulator?
They may have. It's that's sort of the concept with the dual pane glass.
Yeah.
As long as you've got sort of a break between those things, they may have. I think that might have been in the days when fuel and heat was fairly inexpensive, and houses were just generally drafty.
Right.
We can't do that anymore.
So let me ask you. I'm sure all your work is almost considered custom work, right? Everything
for the most
is,
part.
Yeah, for the job. So what kinds of custom things do you build? There's a picture of a wine case, I guess, but bookcases, I guess,
Yep.
and
Yep, we do built-ins. We don't do actual cabinet manufacture ourselves. We work with cabinet manufacturers and distributors who do everything from stock to semi-custom to fully custom.
I thought I saw on your website there was like a breakfast nook
Yep.
in
Yep.
there. And
That sort of thing. You know, there's different levels. Some of the stuff we'll build on site, depending upon the job, whether they're bookcases, fireplace installations, mantles, that sort of stuff. We can build those on site. We can also build some stuff off site. And then, you know, things like this one here, that was actually done by a cabinet manufacturer, but that's all custom work. And that's custom glass on the front of that there. That was a real fun condo.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, very modern, very sleek.
So the scope of your work will go from this complete job to just some cabinetry, right?
Sure.
That you come up with, and it must be like a puzzle every time that you're
It
working.
is. It is. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. You gotta sort of figure out where all the pieces fit. And thing that I really like about it, it's, you know, no houses are the same.
Right.
Even if you're working in the same building and it's the same development, everything's a little bit different. You know, the floors are a little crooked in this one, ceiling's a little off in that one.
Right.
Even in some of the newer stuff, you'd be surprised. But yeah, and then every customer is different.
Right. I picked off a couple from jobs from your website,
Yep.
and one that really interested me was this Wellesley condo.
Yeah.
Right. It looked like it was just this old kind of parquet floor
Yep.
and just old, and then you
Very early
demoed it
1980s.
and-
Yep. Yeah, this was real fun. We took this down pretty much down to a clean slate, and we worked with a designer who had come up with a lot of these plans and an architect. And again, this was really fun because personally, this is my aesthetic. I really love the modern stuff.
Well,
the
this is what
contemporary
struck
stuff.
me, that it was
Yeah.
such a clean look to the place, you know, very modern,
Yep.
without being overly harsh. You know?
No. We wanted to go with a real good mix of materials in there, and I can't take any credit for the design on this. We were just the implementation side. We worked with a great decorator, designer, Veronica Castellucci. Her company is Vision Interiors, and she came up with this. She picked out the materials and the flooring, paint colors, all sorts of stuff like that. And yeah, exactly what you wanted was clean, crisp, but warm and inviting. You don't want that cold, sterile sort of thing.
And I love the way things get hidden away. You know, you don't see things.
Yep.
It's like the small houses where everything has
Oh,
to
yeah.
be, you know, every
Yep.
inch has to be used. And then the bathroom too was, you know, it's kept that same kind of aesthetic.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. I mean, I look at those photos and, you know, just a sense of pride. It's, you know, to work. You spend a while working on these jobs. We were probably there for about 8 or 9 months. When you're done.
Now, do you work just one job at a time, or?
It really depends. It depends on the scale of the job. It depends on, you know, does the phone ring or not, or are you getting emails for jobs? That job was probably the bulk of our work that was probably 80% of our work for 7 or 8 months.
Wow. And do you remember how much that job came out to be?
I think the final cost on my end, I didn't buy the cabinets there. I think that was probably north of $200,000.
Okay.
So, and it sounds like a lot, but that was a 1,800 square foot condo, and it's
Actually, to me, it doesn't sound like a lot. But
yeah. Well, they supplied a lot of the materials and stuff, so you know the tiles sort of showed up in the kitchen cabinets and the appliances. So they probably spent maybe another 50% more than that on that stuff.
Yeah.
But the result is
Yeah,
fantastic. Very
beautiful.
proud of it.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, can we go knock on the door and go visit?
Perhaps, yeah.
So this was another one that I thought was really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
the sunroom,
Yes.
right, where it goes from this dark, dingy, old 50s-looking
Mm-hmm.
space to this beautiful open space. Looks like you also raised the roof a little. The
Yes,
ceiling, I
yes,
mean,
we
not the
did.
roof.
We did actually. Yeah, that was just, again, a really small room. I think it was maybe 11 by 17. And on the back of the house, and it was drafty, it was uninsulated, and no heating out there, only usable 2.5 seasons of the year, bad windows. We took everything down to the studs. We sprayed in insulation again, really tightened that thing up. We put radiant electric floor heat in there because
Oh,
there wasn't.
cool.
They had forced hot water in the building, but in the house, but it wasn't a good way to get it out there because it
Yep.
would have had to go underneath in a crawl space.
Yep.
So we said, let's just insulate the heck out of this thing, and then go with the radiant floor heat, and then we tile the floor, and it's a really great room. Now they can use it all year long. It's
Well, you can see from the picture, it's so sunny,
Yep.
the final result,
Yep.
which I love. It seems like a lot of your work, you're opening things up.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely in real estate, we find that the preferred aesthetic now is to open up the kitchen and the living room and have one big space,
Yep.
in effect. So,
Yeah, I think in the 12 years of doing this, we've only ever had one customer who had the sort of Victorian home over in Somerville, and he had opened it up from front to back. He said, "This thing is too open. We need to close this. We're going to put a wall in the middle."
it's like those open offices.
yeah, exactly. He's like, "We need a little bit of space in here," but
Right. So, whoops, I got way past where we're going. This was your restaurant, correct? in
Yep.
Cambridge?
Yep. That was the it's a cafe / restaurant. They're actually doing lunches, takeaway lunches, prepared food, and now they're actually doing dinner. And I think not too long from now they're going to have beer and wine as well.
Oh,
Yep.
great. And can you tell us a little bit about the project, what you do? And
Yeah, so we went in there, we worked with an architect on this one, and again, it was a pretty dingy hair salon, and went in, gutted the whole place, and everything from, installing a new bathroom that had to be, handicap compatible,
Right.
to new kitchen prep areas with sinks and infrastructure for grease traps and dishwashing.
I'm sorry, did you say you were working with an architect on
Yep.
plans? Oh,
Yep.
You had plans, okay.
Yeah, especially with commercial and
To meet codes. and
yeah.
that sort of
This is
thing.
very specific. You've got to make sure things are wide enough, counters are low enough. Often it has to do with accessibility and
And why don't you tell us, how does that work? You go and you get the permits,
Yep.
right? You apply for the permits.
Yep.
And then you do the work, and then you have to get each stage inspected?
You do. You typically have to get, usually it's at least 6 inspections. You get a rough electrical, rough plumbing, rough framing, and then at that point you can put up your drywall, put in your insulation. They want to take a look at everything before you hide stuff.
Right.
They want to make sure that your plumbing is the right size, that your electrical is done up to code, that you've got enough capacity to handle whatever the business is going to be, that you've got enough electrical outlets everywhere.
And do you do that, or you subcontract that?
We typically defer to the sub-trades for that. The plumbers we work with, great guys, real professionals. So they know. They've all been trained in this stuff. They've got their licenses. They pull their permits. So they know, how big does the drain have to be for the shower? How big does the vent stack have to be? How far away can this be from that? So that's the good thing, is that, I don't have to know the electrical code. It's actually pretty.
Well, I would think also the architect should know a lot of that, no?
They do know a lot of it. They do know a lot of it. They know more of where they want lights. If you're going to build something, you said, hey, we only want one outlet on this 15-foot wall. They're going to say, well, no, that doesn't fly. You've got to put one every 6 feet or whatever the code is.
Right.
But yeah, the nice thing about it is that there's sort of every sub-trade sort of has their knowledge, has their expertise and their professional training, so that I can trust them to do it that way. And then you've got the catch-all of, the inspector comes in, they're going to look at things, they're going to sign off on your card and say, all right, this is good, make sure you put one of those over there, don't forget your smoke alarms, your carbon monoxide.
Well, speaking of stages, how do you get paid? I mean, do you get paid all up front or all at the end, or how do you get paid?
I work in a system that I don't know if too many other people do. I sort of came up with it on my own because it seemed logical to me. I know a lot of people work with, they'll take a third of the job, maybe a deposit to book the job, and then a third to start, a
For the
third in the middle.
materials and-
Sure.
Yeah.
A third in the middle, and then a third at the end. I don't like that system because it tends to be uneven to the needs of material purchasing, and also, you get a third of the job in the middle, so you've gotten 2/3 of the payment, but then you have to wait until everything is 100% done to get that last third at the end.
Right.
That didn't work out for me, so what I do is I do a spreadsheet. You give me a deposit to start, which is usually 25 to 30% or so.
Right.
And then, like I said, you've got that spreadsheet where everything is listed chronologically. Once you sort of complete a task, whether you complete the demolition's now 100%. You bill for that.
Right.
And then once I go through that first third deposit, you sort of go through, you say, oh, we had a $10,000 budget for plumbing. Plumbing's done, $10,000. That all gets added up.
I see.
Once I go through that first initial third deposit, then I bill every 2 weeks. The nice thing about that is the subcontractors bill me, we buy the materials, we bill for them, and then it gets paid for. So it's smaller distributions,
Increments, yeah.
smaller, more frequent distributions.
Right.
And the thing that I like about that, one, you don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Yep.
You never, like a lot of things that I've heard customers get into problems with contractors is they give them this large bit of money, and then the guy thinks that he's
And he doesn't show up.
he doesn't show up, or
Why is that? Now, I would say that's the biggest complaint we hear about contractors. They
I think it's-
never finish the job.
because they've gotten too much money.
You think it's
If they're not on sort of a tight leash, you want to keep everyone incentivized to keep everything moving.
right?
But it's also got to be realistic too. You can't wait till that last, nail goes in or the last, paint brush goes on to
Right.
get that final third of the job, which could be a substantial amount of money. You want to make sure that, as
See, I always thought it was because the hardest work is the little details that everybody is so concerned about. Making sure everything is caulked and
Yeah,
this trim is just perfect, and oh, this doesn't quite, it needs a little adjustment.
I think it comes from
Things that are time consuming.
they're time consuming, but to me and to our company, the last 5% of the work is the most important.
Yeah.
There's two things that I always think customers remember. One is, did they make a mess? Especially if you're working a place that it's less important if it's a new construction home or if it's unoccupied. If someone's living through it while you're renovating a kitchen and bathroom, did they make a mess in my house? Did they leave sawdust in my driveway? Did they put paint cans on my deck and leave a bunch of mess there?
Right.
That's a big thing. The second thing is, did they finish? Are there hanging details at the end? And because those are the two things that really stick in people's minds. And you could have done everything great in the beginning,
Yep.
the middle, you get to the end,
Just structure it great and
then you fall apart. The final impression, they say first impression is most important. I think for construction, last impression is most important.
So Blair, we're just about running out of time here, but I wanted to ask, how many jobs do you do a year? I guess it varies on the size of the job.
It does
but-
vary. Anywhere from this year in 2000, or last year rather, 2017, we did 3 major projects.
Okay.
An addition in Belmont, which is a garage and master bedroom. Then we did the Wakefield Library Edition with the
Right.
cherry bookcases and the ladder.
Right.
And then we also did the cafe.
Right. And I actually ran into your partner, David.
Yes.
And he showed me what you were doing in Arlington, which I thought was just tremendous.
I guess that's the 4th project.
Yeah, you had opened up this whole area and put in a big steel beam,
Yeah.
and you were redoing the kitchen. It was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
That was a lot of fun.
Right. So if we have people who are watching who want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Best way is probably through the website. We've got a great website we launched earlier last year. It's www.tallguywoodworking.com. And there's a contact form on there, and there's phone numbers on there as well. That's pretty much the best way.
Okay.
Great pictures of work on there too if you want to check those out, and stuff we're proud of.
Yeah, it's a great website.
Thank you.
Listen, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you for
Been
having me, Randy.
terrific. And I'm sure we could talk another hour, but
Good.
yeah, this is great. Thanks.
Excellent. No problem. Thank you.